Okay, I said I'd do a little video on wiring. Best thing to do is have everything ready. Got my pickups mounted. Got the wires from my pickup coming in. Ground wire from the bridge coming in. I also have a ground wire from the bridge going to the output. I just use a piece of speaker wire. So I ground everything. The bridge is grounded twice. So, and then have all your lead wires ready. Just the way I do it is I cut it, put a little heat shrink tubing on there, heat it up, and then I just twist it into my fingers like that to the other end, cut it off, put a piece of heat shrink tubing on the other end, have everything pre-cut, all the ends twisted and ready to go. And then your little jumper wires too, from the volume to tone, your ground wire. And then your hot wire going to the tone pot. Even your little capacitor, have it ready to go too. I'm just putting a little MDF, or a little MFD 2.2 in there. And I got my jack ready to go. And my heat shrink tubing for that. So, basically the first thing I do, I need a piece of tape. And the first thing I do is I put the capacitor on the tone pot. And when I get it on there, I'll show you which pegs it goes on. But I have my pots mounted on a control plate. If you're not using a control plate, what I do is, when I do that is I just poke a couple holes in some cardboard and put the pots in there how far I want them apart. And it holds them in place. And then I just set them up on a piece of wood so it's there. First thing I do is I put my capacitor on. And when soldering, you don't have to like hold the iron right down on anything. Just hold the iron down there and put the solder on the iron and just wait till it starts to flow. And just give it a sec and boom, you're done. Doesn't take much. I let that cool for a second. Well, I grab my magnifying glasses. Ah, much better. Once that cools for a second, you cut off the excess off of that capacitor so it's not hanging out there. And you can take your little tape off. And you see your volume pots in the front, your tone pots in the back. So you can see where I just went to the inside peg and then laid it up on top. Then the next thing I do is I put the hot lead for the pickup in. That goes in the first inside outlet. This little tape comes in handy because it helps hold the wires in place. Get that right where I want it. Put a drop of solder on that. Okay, she's in there. You know what I forgot to do? God bless America. Get the yakking. I forgot to put, when you put your lead coming in, have your little jumper wire ready too. So you can just stick it in there. So now I got to heat this up a little bit and stick that jumper wire in there because I forgot. Alright. And then I'm going to put a little drop of more solder on there. Just. There we go. All right. Now she's in there. And once you get your lead coming in to your volume pot, and you got your jumper going from the lead, that goes to the center of your tone pot. Like so. Then you just put a little drop of solder on that. Remember, it doesn't take much solder. Straighten that capacitor out, don't like it sit like that. Now, I'm going to feed my output wires through my output jack. Remember, you can, if you're not going to do it like this, you can lay this all out on a piece of cardboard, and then it's ready to be installed. And then your output comes out of the center of the volume pot, and that's a little too long. I like these short. You don't need them long. That's plenty long enough right there. I don't know if you can see that, but that's plenty long enough. So that one goes in the center. And then you use your little trusty piece of tape again. Kind of hold the wire in there for you. Just stay right there. Don't move. I'm going to drop the solder on that. Oh yeah, that's nice. Got that. Okay, so we got our input coming in, it jumping over to the center on the tone pot. We've got our output lead coming out of the center of the volume pot. Now we can run all of our grounds. And I usually stick my grounds to that little eyelet right there and then pull them up on top of the pot. And being this was the output for the pickup, had a braided cable on it, so I just wrapped the ground wire around that braided cable, and I'm going to stick it on the top. It's nice to have a pair of these too, so you can move stuff around. Sometimes I use a toothpick. Put those in there, and then put your jumper in there. Okay, in just a second here, I'll turn the camera around here and give you a view of it like this so you can see exactly what's going on. Alright. Okay, we put a drop of solder on that. Get those going. Wait a minute. And I'm gonna get this braided cable so it kind of stays down on the top of the pot. Okay, stay. Now when you're soldering onto these pots, try not to put the iron right on the pot, because it heats it up and then it makes it so the pot doesn't work right. But what I do is I hold the iron above the pot and I just melt that solder. Just let the solder just pool on top of the pot. We usually run down about 1.5 inches of solder. And then it'll just pool on top of the pot like that. Stay. It cools pretty fast too. And I don't really like how it looks right now, so I'm just going to melt a little bit more solder onto it just to make sure. Pull the solder down to the peg. There we go. Yeah, I don't think she's going to go anywhere now. Better to be safe than sorry. And you take that ground lead and you pull it around here into your tone pot. I usually just kind of stick it under the lead for the capacitor. Most of the time it holds it. There we go. Same deal, just choke up on your solder. Just start melting that solder and letting it pool up. There we go. Then I cut off the excess wires just so I know they won't touch anything. Then we do our output, and I've got another ground coming from the bridge, so I'm going to just braid it onto the ground from the control plate. Then I slip my heat shrink tubing on there. Oh. Ah, damn. Twisted babies are really good. Alright. Let's stick that on the ground. Kind of just bend it and let it hang. It kind of holds it in place like that. Same deal. Just kind of melt the solder and let it flow on there. There we go. We got the ground. I'm going to slide that heat shrink tubing down on there because while it's hot it'll just start to shrink it. Same deal. A heat shrink tube on there. Just a second, I'll give you a view of everything from this side. And got that nice and melted on there. Okay. You can see how the pot looks. Volume pot, tone pot. Got the capacitor there. Lead coming in. Jump from the lead to the middle. Volume, or yeah, from the output goes to the middle of the volume pot. And then everything ground into the volume pot. And then ground the tone pot to the volume pot. And then everything down here is grounded too. So everything should be right. And this is the moment of truth right here. Plug in this bad boy. And we'll see if we got any sound. Boy, interference from the lights. Volume was all the way open, that's why. Then open up the tone pot, see if it gets crisp. Nice and crisp, turn the tone pot down. Nice and dull. No volume. Volume. And that is a brief rundown on wiring. If you got any questions, let me know. But here it is, all in a nutshell. Out to your output. It's that simple. And like I said, you can do it all on cardboard if you're not going to do control plates and you're going to mount your pots to your box. Same with your jack plug. Do everything on cardboard and then put it in your guitar and you shouldn't have any problems. Thanks, guys.